So you have this particular sugar known as D-Allulose. And you have, of course, this weight loss medication, in this case, oral semaglutide. What do you think is better as far as preventing rebound weight? Well, in this animal study, and I want to emphasize animal study, meaning we have to conduct human trials later on, you'd be quite surprised at the effect of D-Allulose. Now, D-Allulose, this sugar is not commonly known, found in, figs, raisins, maple syrup, and so on and so forth, but it is an amazing sugar, especially for those that may be familiar with it on low-calorie or zero-calorie type keto diets, because it doesn't really have much of an impact on blood glucose, although you hear the word sugar. Now, what we're looking at here is the rapid effect of D-Allulose. Now, the cool part about this, again, remember, it's a comparison against oral semaglutide in an animal study. The cool part about this is how fast it works, but not only that, its impact in what's called the anorexigenic system and orexigenic system. One produces the elements that suppress hunger, and the other one is actually what increases hunger. But by increasing the elements that suppress hunger and reducing the elements that increase hunger, pretty amazing impact, a two-way road. So here we have the first chart right there, duration of hunger suppression. Fairly fast. Now, the researchers may postulate consumption throughout the entire day. So, for example, in this case, if we look at a body surface analysis, which we'll look at the math, if it equates to human trials, effectively, it'd be about 15 grams a day, 5 grams prior to each meal. I am not a healthcare provider. You have to work with your healthcare provider on this. So, basically, it's pretty amazing overall. So, the fact of suppressing the hunger that rapidly and that fast, compared to if you look at the semaglutide, it takes longer to work but lasts longer. But again, I want to reemphasize it's oral, not injection. So that's pretty darn amazing overall. So let's look at the study real fast, and we'll get a little bit more detail into the allulose itself. Remember, I have to deal with wellness enthusiasts, clinicians, data analysts, researchers, so on and so forth. So I got 10 minutes to cover a huge swath of information. D-Allulose reduces weight more persistently than oral semaglutide while both equally elevated grip strength. It's also being looked at sarcopenia in diet-induced obese mice. All right, this rare sugar, again, not so rare necessarily, just not very well known. A zero-calorie sweetener markedly ameliorates obesity. It reportedly stimulates the release of endogenous glucagon-like peptide 1, GLP-1, to activate the vagal afferent and directly influences the neurons in the hypothalamic arcuate nucleus, thus evoking vagal and central nervous system routes. D-Allulose can now be produced substantially, being expected for diet therapy. Oral form GLP-1 receptor agonists, like oral semaglutide, without injection, markedly ameliorates obesity. It evokes only central nervous routes. Thus, the GLP-1 based substances utilize common distinct routes, suggesting common distinct effects on obesity and related disorders, including sarcopenia. Again, the first chart, you saw sarcopenia on there in regard to the GLP-1 effect. It's really unusual. I want to highlight that a little bit later on. I think in this case, it started working on the 8th day. But to delve deeper into the study, it did move very fast. Again, I plot the charts, so you can pause anytime. All right, so here we go. Mechanisms and safety. I want to do this one first because it's a little detailed, but the block at the top gives you an idea, and I'll read it off real fast. The semaglutide is one lane. It bypasses the gut's natural alarm system, traveling through the bloodstream to talk directly to the brain's headquarters. The allulose, 2 lanes, activates the gut-brain telephone line, the vagal nerve, immediately upon hitting the stomach, while also talking directly to the brain. Thus, natural double-team approach prevents the body from rebounding when you stop taking it. Again, animal study has to translate the same effects to human trials. Fasting blood glucose, you can see right there in the Sarcopenia Defense. Again, it's an anomaly. We'll get more into later on, hopefully in future studies. Now, let's meet the allulose. So here we have it. If you look at it right there, it's not really uncommon. But however, though, it may have an incredible, profound effect. Is it safe? Yeah, generally recognized as safe from 2012. And I'll leave that up there for a second so you can read through because we have a lot of territory to cover. And again, I want to reiterate that. And so as we begin to look at the blood sugar impact, you see what I mean? That's why it's very popular with keto diets. That green line there, that's why. All right, to proceed forward. All right, clinical takeaways. This one I usually save towards the end, but here I want to leave it in the beginning because for those short on time, I want to respect that. There's your information right off the bat. The rebound trap, the allulose anomaly, the 0-calorie rare sugar only triggers endogenous GLP-1 release but possesses unique capabilities to directly interact with and suppress the brain's hunger systems, outlasting the active dose. Again, pretty good. Look at the translation down below. Explains it in a bit more detail. All right, now as we go to the composition, I don't know why I have this in the layman section, but there's a hypothalamic targeting. You could see where the ghrelin response and neuroinhibition, where the D-Allulose has a very powerful effect, where the semaglutide, not so much. The leptin responsive neuron activation, if you're into that, yeah, the D-Allulose beats it. So to proceed forward, the rebound risk. So there we have it. So on the animal study, those that were taking the oral semaglutide, 100% regained. On the allulose, again, studies need to be replicated. Look at that, 0%. That's the type of zero you like to see. All right, to proceed forward, body weight gain trajectory. All right, there we have what we're looking at right there. And you get an idea as far as day 16 discontinuation and how they maintain the allulose weight loss as opposed to other aspects. Real world translation, the lab results versus daily life and the off-ramp. Again, to look at the effect, it works very rapidly within a 2-hour window. So if this was to translate accordingly to human trials, which we'll go through the expense of doing that towards the end, you're looking about 15 grams per day if the body surface analysis is equivalent. It's very rough, but still, animal to human is not the easiest transition mathematically. Pathway to superiority, all right, there you have the vagal afferent route, afferent, and the complete central control as far as the effect of D-Allulose. I'll leave that up there for you to read. As we proceed forward, it's pretty darn interesting. But let's go to the conclusion of the study, and then we'll get more into the mathematical aspects of it in a second. For the clinicians, the researchers, the data analysts, and the healthcare providers. All right, to proceed forward, we go. Boom, boom. Whoop, that's an old study. This is a new study. All right. On repeated administration, D-Allulose and oral semaglutide similarly lowered food intake and weight for the initial 3 days. Animal study suggests that this early effect may involve the common mode of action. It's postulating the central nervous system route and activation of the ARH, anorexigenic neurons, on day 4 and later. In contrast, reductions of intake and weight were saturated, attenuated with the oral semaglutide, but further progressed, maintained with the D-Allulose. Furthermore, upon termination of treatment, the weight loss was quickly rebounded after oral semaglutide, but significantly maintained after D-Allulose. So they maintained the weight loss. They maintained those gains. So think about it. Someone may be able to use in the future, human clinical trials, in the future may be able to use D-Allulose as a way of coming off of some of the other medications, such as oral semaglutide, at least according to this animal model. These results suggest that D-Allulose-induced substantial weight loss may involve D-Allulose's action mode of combination of the vagal afferent, and central nervous system routes. All right, let's get right into the actual data section. And here we go real fast. Ba-ba-ba. Little sound effects as I'm getting all this paper out of the way. Statistical quality and statistical study quality, statistical power. A 0.01 on the p-value, pretty darn good. Good quality study. Again, it's animal studies, so you want to give it a B, and they say don't do anything below a B. All right, the effects per se, the anti-rebound weight retention protocol, sample size, again, animal study, 42 animals, gender split, 100% male. The DIO is now a reference to an old, very popular singer. It is diet-induced obesity, and the age range, as far as weeks, is 34 to 44. And the 100% weight retention post discontinuation is pretty amazing. It says, but when you stop taking semaglutide, the weight comes back, but with allulose, the weight stays off. You see the potential there? Pretty darn incredible. All right, human optimization, we're looking at the body surface analysis, the BSA. All right. So again, animal to human to animal is tricky, but is generally a rough area for the data analyst, research clinician, whoever. You're looking at about 14.6 grams per day, and that's a 150-pound individual. And according to the postulation, is that'd be done about 5 grams right before, 30 minutes before each meal, totaling about 15 grams a day for a 150-pound individual. All right, neural signatures. All right, there's the anorexigenic activation and the orexigenic inhibition. And what's orexigenic, once again, is basically what we're looking at is preventing the signals to trigger hunger. So two different things. One is a substance that helps suppress appetite. The other one is the substance that encourages appetite, but that encouraging of appetite never gets off the ground with the D-Allulose in this animal study postulating. All right, I want to add publisher bias. Precision protocol, daily food intake, real interesting. All right, and then moving forward. All right, the sugar versus semaglutide, the persistence battle. All right, you can see the efficiency trajectory and so on and so forth. All right, data, math, human equivalent doses, HED. There your study is as far as your mathematics, as far as body surface area, once again, to reiterate. All right, to move forward, it's like doing a little PhD dissertation every single week. And here we go. There, if I get better at that. Glossary terms for the individuals that are not familiar. Mathematical dashboard, boom, boom, boom. That's the math that's being utilized. It's got to be real exciting. You can pause it, look at it later on if you'd like to. But again, got to show your work. All right, proceed forward. It would replicate the same study in an animal model. Of course, redundancy is important. Look at about $145,000. Now, here's the kicker. How much would it cost to do a high-grade human study? Well, the group, about 1,200 people, to get a 95% rating on that, you're looking close to, you ready for this? If that build up the suspense here. If you were to do a human trial, and this is why you're probably never going to see it recognized as a medication for people. Unless someone does the study and somehow finds a way to patent it, so you get a use patent. $58.5 million to produce a good phase 3 trial architecture. Yeah, let's mess up the pronunciation towards the end. So there you have the basically as far as the breakdown if you want to do a human trial. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. All right, there you have it. So that's part of the reason why you see a lot of food items don't get recommended that often, because of the expenses to do a high quality trial. And provide a briefing card. All right, this is, for example, the healthcare provider. All right, you can see it right there. I'm going to leave that up for you to basically pause and look at it a little bit later on your own, because I think we're really running over our time limit here, and I apologize for that. And that gives you a really good breakdown. This is pretty amazing. Now, it doesn't take much imagination to look at the potential uses for D-Allulose, especially in this world of GLP-1, popularity. So this is pretty darn cool, because take, for example, a clinician and someone's on a certain medication that has GLP-1, I'm not going to mention any names, and you don't know how to get the individual off it without ravenous hunger. Well, if human trials equate to what we see in the animal trial here, here comes our hero, D-Allulose. And that's where it gets amazing. Gratitude to the researchers for doing this. Again, we always have to be thankful to them. I am humble you watch. Look forward to seeing what you and I both discover next week. Maybe with a few less charts. But again, I want to paint the picture. I have to deal with clinicians, dietitians, data analysts, mathematics, well as people, people have a right to be a little bit, not so trusting. So we have to have the information available for them to see the work. I'll catch you in a bit. Bye.